our channel. I'm Nikki.
And I'm John.
And this is Nikki and John. Today we're going to be talking about Captain America Civil War 2016.
Wait, there it is. Avengers symbol. Yeah, let's do it.
Directed by Anthony Russo and Joe Russo. As I was just... A fun fact for you, known as the Russo brothers. Yeah. Like, okay, cool.
Anything Marvel related, always referred to as the Russo brothers, because they are a team together.
The writers from this are Christopher Marcus, Stephen McFeely, and Joe Simon. This cast is huge. I'm not going to go through every friggin' one. I'm just going to name a few because there's just way too many. Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, Don Cheadle, Jeremy Renner, Chadwick Boseman, Paul Bettany, and Elizabeth Olsen. I am stopping there.
I'll continue with a few. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Tom Holland. I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah.
So in previous movies, which we did not cover, yes, multiple superheroes are acquired in this team called the Avengers. If you haven't heard of it, then you've been living under a rock for the last 20 years.
Go SpongeBob!
But so what happens though is, the government has to sanction and like basically make it the strike team, choosing when and where they attack based on whatever threat. The Avengers never really went by the government. They just did the right thing at the right time. Some people did get hurt. So in order to balance that out in a political standpoint, they want them to, sign over their rights to be controlled. Then breaks the team up because some agree and some don't. So we get this clash of Iron Man being the lead of one group and Captain America being the lead of another. I think the fight scenes are some of the best we've seen, and it's versus good guys versus good guys. So as the team gets broken up, they bring in extra characters, and then we get introduced to the first time we ever see the MCU, Spider-Man, Tom Holland. What are your thoughts when you first saw him on the screen, Nick?
I don't know. I thought he was like this tiny little baby. I was like, oh, I was just like, too young for any of this, But I really like him. I've seen him in a bunch of other things besides his Spider-Man. Right. But I think he makes a cute Spider-Man. He's quick. He has that like cutesy voice that can pull off.
Right. Well, I mean, and you not being an avid like comic book reader, I read a lot of Spider-Man comics. And Spider-Man was a teenager when he became Spider-Man on the comics. So they brought that back to it, where the movies seemed like he was like just leaving high school and going to college. He was 18, 19, 20. But yet in the original comics, he was like a 13, 14-year-old. To see him being young again, maybe 15, maybe that's more accurate. 15 is probably better from the comics as well. I really love seeing this version of him. Seeing kind of like they skip the origins, but get the origins of the costume in there. With that scene with Robert Downey Jr. going in and being like, hey, and then clicks on the ceiling and the costume falls down. It's really neat. This was a thing that Marvel did at the early stages of movies. They tried to throw fans off because fans at that time were digging in the internet, trying to find whatever they could about anything that was coming out. So they started making up fake movie titles. So now they use pseudonyms for like movies. So one of them was called, they actually announced this at one of the Marvel Disney reveal shows when they were releasing a bunch of movie names. They called it Serpent Society. And people were like, what the hell does that mean? There's nothing from the comics I can think of. What is it about? And it was actually Civil War. They just didn't want to give away any of the team fighting against each other. The writers were very inspired by like the movies Seven and Godfather and Fargo. So they like those movies are very well grounded to reality and what can possibly happen in real life. So they wanted to convey that in this superhero genre of people. So that's why they all get hurt, end up in jail, showing that they're not perfect to get away from every, instance that happens. They can be injured. They're not supernatural. It is a way to keep like the fantastical world of this, but keep it somewhat grounded in a way. Robert Downey Jr. is in Peter Parker's apartment, and he's sitting there with Marissa Tomei. It's really kind of funny because when he gets up and walks, says she's really beautiful or whatever, when in actuality Robert Downey Jr. and Marissa Tomei were dating in the 90s. When he said she was beautiful or hot or whatever he says, he's probably still really thinking that because she's aged really well.
Yes. She is fine.
So kind of funny that they had to do a scene together when they had previously dated years before, back in the 90s. I mean, it's a long time ago from the time this movie came out, but I'm sure there's little feelings there when they're sitting there,
Little embers that are still a little hot.
Okay, embers being hot. Okay, the women will like this one because Chris Evans' biceps. That big one, that helicopter and that building together. Those were his real biceps, straight up. But he did hurt muscles in his arm. He did that scene, no CGI, and he had worked out for a few hours right before that. About 2 hours, he said he did bicep curls. Loved it so much, it didn't matter if he got hurt. They kept it in there, and I'm sure the girls love it.
TikTok, you don't stop to the TikTok, you don't
The airport battle where we get to see a truck that has the Bluth family logo on it from the Arrested Development TV show. The Russo brothers directed the original pilot for that show and directed many other episodes later on. So it's a nice little callback that you see it in the background. It has the Bluth symbol on it, which is really kind of a fun nod. There were a lot of scenes filmed while they're filming the movie from Spider-Man's eye perspective that they filmed of that battle and they used later on in the opening for Spider-Man Homecoming, being a video diary he was making. So we get to see from his point of view exactly what he saw during that battle, which is a lot of fun, but they filmed it while filming Civil War. Not even really knowing at the time if Spider-Man was gonna happen or not. I think they were in talks with it, but they weren't fully sure. It's a collaboration between. I didn't realize that they had filmed those scenes while filming Civil War, which is why I thought it was very interesting, because I thought those scenes were filmed for Spider-Man later, just recreating it instead of filming them at that exact time. Pre-thinking ahead,
Yeah, right. I'm like, I could use this someplace else.
Let's do this while we have the opportunity, and maybe it will become something. Who knows? Spider-Man became one of the biggest. I mean, Spider-Man movies are always the biggest. Really, in my mind, he's one of the biggest superheroes.
I think they're the coolest, but that's just my opinion. Speaking of Tom Holland, he slightly hurt his nose while doing a flip while being Spider-Man.
I could say he probably might have hit his nose on his head right there.
Something, yeah. That's expected, I guess.
Maybe.
The CGI for the young Tony Stark, that took several months to do. I was just like, what? Like, I just figured it to be like something that would be quicker.
You don't have to be good, you just have to be fast. Why can't all women want that?
I mean, obviously that was in the early stages of like de-aging someone, but I think they did a really good job.
It's better than that one Captain America thing I saw when he was younger. That looked terrible. That turned me off to the whole movie. I'm like, this movie's
That's it. It's it. Like sometimes they take their time doing something, and then other times they take quickly that it looks terrible because you rushed it.
Don Cheadle and Chadwick Boseman, they share the same birthday, which is November 29th.
Okay.
Scarlett Johansson never did any interviews or any promotion, press, nothing for this movie. I found that to be a little weird. This is the live action debut of Black Panther. He was one of the first Black superheroes. It debuted in 1966. It was part of the Fantastic Four number 52 comic, if you're wondering. Hopefully I got that correct.
Yeah.
But I was like, wow, 1966 when they first had the idea of Black Panther. Wow, what a change, right? For that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Comic books always kind of pushed the norm of things. That was the fun of comic books back in the 60s and 70s and 50s. Always kind of creating these characters wouldn't go mainstream right away because it's against the norm. Look at the character now.
Yeah.
I think Black Panther is bigger now than he's ever been.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mark Ruffalo was spotted on the set when they were filming for this movie, and everyone thought that the Hulk was going to be in it. But by the end of it, they decided not to do the Hulk. So
I think it was a better bet because Hulk would have just crushed anybody.
Like, Like, yeah.
Oh, you're against me? Crush, you're dead.
Yeah.
All cats would have been gone. You would have taken Cap's shield and just snapped it in half, and used it as a toothpick or something.
Right. The scene of Ant-Man being boosted by an arrow from Hawkeye was taken specifically from the comic. And the comic is The Avengers number 223, just in case anybody wanted to know. No CGI was used during the highway scene where Bucky pulls that stunt with the motorcycle. I was surprised. I was like, oh, okay. But they figured it was so practical that it was like, oh, okay, we can do this.
Shoots scores.
Because it's, a comic book movie and I love these and I'm always happy to see, superheroes fighting and obviously seeing them fighting each other is amazing. But I am going to go 4.4, not as high as the last one, because there is a lot of dialogue. There is a lot of slow parts to this movie. You kind of need to have watched some of the other movies to understand where the characters are at in their evolution.
Right.
So I'll give it a 4.4, which I think is still a pretty high score because I do love the choreography and the fighting, and I do love the storyline. It is just a little slow paced at the beginning. It doesn't really pick up till about the middle, almost closer to the end.
Yeah.
And maybe they could have done a fight earlier on it that was a little more extravagant to keep the audience, on their toes. But other than that, I think it was a great movie. I think it was a great story. So, 4.4 for me.
Yeah, I don't know. This one, it had a lot of slow parts, like you were saying, and I'm just like, all right, if it wasn't for the hot guys in this movie, I would watch it. So, being for the cutie pies alone, 3.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fair. I mean, a lot of work went into it. I'm not going to discount that just because it's not my thing. I think that they have a good thing going here, obviously. But, to all the people that did read the comics and they finally get to see something come to life, so to speak. But, I don't know. That takes a lot. And I appreciate that. I'm just not a fan.
That's fair. Yeah. And I love that honesty of someone who's not a comic book fan and a comic book movie fan. I love the honesty because you really enjoyed the Iron Man movies. And that right there is a win because there is capability of you enjoying these movies if given the right story and the right hot guys.
Oh, geez, look at the butt on that. Yeah. He must work out.
Next week.
Starting, it's October. So it's horror movie month.
Yeah.
So you'll see, we're going to start it off with Chucky with Child's Play. Nikki's not much of a fan, so let's see if we can sway her into enjoying Child's Play a little bit more this time.
I don't know. I just never got into it.
And for anyone new here, please, and anyone reoccurring coming here, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you give us some ideas, then maybe your idea will pop up on screen and we will watch that movie and check it out.
Keep in mind, it has to be within like the free streamings. I'm not buying or renting anything.
That's right. We got to
be doing it.
movie.
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.